All right. We're gonna see who pops in tonight for the live call. Tonight I'll be talking about Sober October, and I'm gonna be in people's questions as they show up regarding quitting smoking weed, quitting nicotine addictions in general. If no one shows up, this is gonna be a very short live. If people show up, we're gonna be good to go. For the purposes of tonight, ignore the trap house looking light switch behind me. We're doing some painting in my office, so yeah, not much I can do about that for the time. But we'll give it a minute here, and we'll see if anyone pops in. If not, then we'll try again next time. All right, let's see. Okay, there's Mr. Orange Space saying, "How are you doing?" If you guys got questions about things, ask away. I kind of came on to talk about Sober October and the challenge they're running. But if you guys got questions about sobriety in general, quitting substance in general, we can talk about that. What's up? Good to see everyone. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Very good. I'll just rant until questions start popping up. Guys, October 1st, we're launching our October challenge. It's a paid program. I want to emphasize nothing that you're necessarily going to find in the program that you can't already find on my channel. But for people looking for some extra community, some extra accountability, and things like that, the Sober October event is definitely worth your time and your money. Now, again, I'm happy to answer if people have questions and things. Oh, is the audio all screwed up? Let me try and fix audio here. 1 minute. Let me try and change this. Hold on. I'm gonna trust with the audio. Okay, let's see. Let's see if this audio is better. Audio. Yeah, that should be a little bit better for you guys. Okay. All right. If you guys got questions, start asking away. Now we can't hear you. Good. Okay. Let's try this. Wait, much better? So you guys can hear me or can't hear me at this point? Sounds good. Okay. All right. We're in business. All right, guys, ask questions to me. I mean, really, like, ask away. I mean, otherwise, I'm just going to rant about the Sober October event and talk about what it is we do during that event. I'll start doing that until you guys ask me something. Realistically, it's 4 live Zoom calls, and basically, I go through everything that you see in on my channel in my videos in a very condensed manner. And you're put into a group of people who are all quitting substances. That's what Sober October is. You get some extra accountability, some extra guidance. It's typically one of our most popular events, so we're hoping to fill it out. Now, let's go into some questions here, because now we're getting some questions. Quitting weed and nicotine at the same time. I get asked this all the time when it comes to different substances. When you're quitting more than one thing, you have 2 ways of approaching this, okay? You could quit them both at once. You go through one set of withdrawal symptoms, there's no BS, and you're done with it. You could quit them one at a time, and if you take that approach, I recommend starting with the drug that's giving you the most problems. So if weed is giving you more problems than nicotine, then you would focus on quitting weed first. Typically, that's the case when I'm dealing with weed and nicotine at the same time. Or let's say alcohol is involved. Typically, alcohol is the most volatile, so we get rid of that one first. Now, the advantage to doing it that way is you're building up confidence by quitting one of them to get ready to quit the other one eventually. You also may experience slightly less intense withdrawals. I typically recommend quitting one before the other to people who really struggle with anxiety and depression when they quit, or anhedonia, that feeling, that loss of joy. If people experience that really intensely, I usually say quit one of them first and then the next one. If it's just physical withdrawal symptoms regarding weed and nicotine, not benzos, not necessarily alcohol, then I say quit them both at once, okay? So that's kind of how I talk about that. How do I get rid of my addiction to my ex who betrayed me? I don't know if I have good advice for that. I'll just tell you what I would eventually do. I would replace that person. That's just my point blank advice. I don't have a better input. And honestly, guys, I tell people I'm not a therapist, so I'm probably not the most qualified for that, but I'd replace them. Do testosterone boosters help with quitting weed? You know, Kyle, that's a funny question. I've considered that in the past myself. When I would go to quit weed, I'd be like, I'm just gonna hop on some gear, get on some TRT, get on some HGH. I really considered that. And ultimately, I don't think there's going to be any positive effect. I mean, yeah, you might feel better because you're on testosterone, but like going on to testosterone replacement therapy is a huge commitment. And I don't know that that's a commitment you would want to make for something as minor as nicotine addiction. And I'm not downplaying nicotine addiction. I've dedicated my life to helping people quit that. Okay. But I don't think in my realm that would be justification to make a decision as big as testosterone replacement therapy. Day 3, best of luck. Congratulations. Get through 72. Why do you think it's so hard to quit weed and nicotine both? It seems a lot easier to quit one or the other, but quitting smoking altogether is tricky. I think it's hard because you get a pretty big dopamine crash. When you're quitting more than one substance at a time, your dopamine levels really plummet. Now, I want to emphasize, when you're deep into active addiction, your dopamine levels are already plummeting. Okay. That's already occurred. That's happened. But when you quit, they drop even a little bit lower. And that's what I think makes it so hard quitting both of them at once. And both weed and nicotine have different impacts on different receptors in the body and different organ systems and things like that. So you are getting hit with two sets of withdrawals. Now, I know for myself, I quit them both very closely together because whenever I go get into one, I would immediately get into the other one. Like I couldn't have nicotine without weed and I couldn't have weed without nicotine. So I eventually came to the conclusion that I had to get rid of both of them in pretty close proximity to one another. What about human addiction? I'm not sure about human addiction. That's probably not something that I work with. I do know someone though that works with like fantasy addiction and stuff regarding relationships though. Yeah, can weed really take 6 months to test positive? The longest I've had someone testing positive was 120 days after ceasing use, but it depends on what metabolites of THC they're testing for, and it depends on the type of drug testing that they're doing. Now, this actually brings up another point when it comes to sobriety and quitting weed. A lot of people will contact me and they'll be like, dude, I'm 30 days in. I thought I would be feeling like a ton better. And I emphasize to people, hey, go get a cheap drug test, take a piss test, test yourself for THC. And if you're still popping positive, you're still going through the initial detox of THC. So for a lot of people who are taking 30, 60, 90 days coming off high concentration products, they're still in the acute phase of withdrawal and detox, even after 30 to 60 days. Now, you don't really see that with nicotine. You don't really see that with alcohol. It's really a weird situation when it comes to weed. But if the person's struggling and they're 30 days into quitting, I like to emphasize to them, hey, you haven't gotten to the good part yet. Your body's still trying to process this stuff and get it out. So we haven't even begun the healing. And that's important because that person might think, oh my gosh, I should be healed. And it's like the healing hasn't even begun. So that's actually a good question. Ben, vaping might be harder to quit than smoking because people might like it more. Yeah, I mean, Ben, obviously there is the addiction to the flavors and there's the convenience of vaping, but those hyper sweet flavors are very, very addicting, right? This is the same concept that energy drink companies understand, that food companies understand. If we can make something hyper stimulating and hyper sweet, we know it's more addicting. And that's exactly what vaping is. I liked vaping and nicotine more than I liked weed at the end of the day, if I were to answer that. Okay. How do you replace? I had to replace weed with vapes to be able to quit. Yeah. So, Scrant, I'll talk about this. This is actually something interesting that you bring up, replacing weed with vapes. So nicotine, and I wouldn't recommend vaping, but nicotine can be used as a form of harm reduction in some cases for people. So I've had conversations with people where they're already using nicotine, they're vaping, they're also smoking weed. But what I'll recommend doing is saying, hey, let's quit weed, let's quit vaping, but maybe you want to do a nicotine pouch, or maybe you want to do a nicotine gum, which again, I don't always recommend, but I'll do that as a form of harm reduction. Getting someone onto a nicotine product that's already had past use with it, who has cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome or psychosis, is a much better bet than them continuing to smoke weed if we can't get them completely sober from substances. So, believe it or not, in some instances, depending on the method of delivery of nicotine, there is an opportunity for harm reduction. Now, in our programs, when we work with people, we're typically taking the approach of supplementation. That is something that we do more on the one-on-one stuff and in the group programs than I do on my channel for general videos. Okay, good though. How do you find things to do when dealing with the boredom that comes from quitting weed? It's out of the boredom that you find things. You know, I was bored for a little bit when I quit. And that's eventually what led me to picking up my phone, starting a TikTok account, starting a YouTube account. That led me to getting certified as an addiction recovery coach and then opening up this company. It took time. And it's sitting there with the boredom, not running from the boredom, and giving your brain the space to figure out what to do next. That's how you handle the boredom. That's how you figure out what to do. Now, that question is actually quite simple to answer, though. You just start doing things. I never would have known that I was going to fall in love with making YouTube videos and being an addiction recovery coach and doing this stuff. I never would have guessed that in a million years. I just started doing anything and everything. And now, over the course of several years, my life is filled up with several different hobbies. But like, there's a lot to do out there in the world, right? Like, there's endless opportunities, especially if you have extra money from quitting, right? You got more money, you got more opportunities. That's just the way it is. I mean, you will find it if you allow yourself the space and the boredom to find it. Okay, that's how that works. But if you relapse and you're like, forget it, this isn't working for me, well, you never gave yourself the space or the time to sort that thing out. And I'll be blunt with everyone here. I'll be blunt. It's about a year. It's like a year for most people to really figure it out and really get in a groove. You don't struggle for a year, but it's a year. It's a year to really get in a groove of this new lifestyle of sobriety and recovery. Yeah, quit weed first, then quit tobacco. That's how most people do it. You know, I find when people are quitting both weed and nicotine, I see more success with people who quit weed first or quit both altogether. And I say that because nicotine can give you that adrenaline pump. It can give you that the prevention of the breakdown of acetylcholine, so it can help with focus and stuff. So nicotine, someone can still be pretty motivated on nicotine. Weed tends to be more of an amotivational drug. It tends to rob people of motivation. The high with weed, for a majority of people, not everyone, tends to lead to a lack of motivation. So by quitting weed, they get more motivated, they get more energy, and then they're ready to take on tobacco or nicotine products. What questions and mindset do you have to ask when dealing with the boredom? Okay, we talked about the boredom. Some people had a chance to quit smoking or vaping easily before they got addicted. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'll be honest. It's the earlier you quit, in most cases, the easier it is. I'll tell you guys the age ranges of people that call me in my office is I'll get someone who's younger because their parents made them call, 16, 17, 18 years old. The next age is 25. This is right when someone's starting their career, starting their life. That's when they call. Then it's 30 years old. Usually now we're looking at an increase in responsibility, children, home. If they don't quit at 30, they're calling me when they're 40. And it's because now they're starting to feel older and they're starting to feel the effects. And if they don't quit when they're 40, they're quitting when they're 60. And these are the most common age ranges that call me. That's the timeline for people that call. And of course, it's more challenging the older we become because that drug has ingrained itself into that many more chapters or aspects of our lives. We also start to lose some of that neuroplasticity in our brain as we age. So the healing process is actually a little bit harder, but it's not impossible. People quit at all different ages all the time. So it's no problem. 6 months alcohol free, 2 months weed free. Congratulations. 4 days going strong. Congratulations. When I quit one, I wind up using more of the other. So yeah, this is quitting weed and then using more nicotine, quitting nicotine, using more weed. quitting weed and nicotine, watching more adult media content. This is a common error that people make. Listen, guys, when we quit a drug, we take on an incredible amount of responsibility. And that responsibility is to start taking care of ourselves, a responsibility that has been lost by a majority of people in today's world. Okay. Just because we struggle with a drug addiction doesn't mean that what we're struggling with is dramatically different from the person right next to us. Self care, taking care of oneself, and being responsible for the actions we take is no longer a trait that's seen in many people. You're like in the top percentage of people if you can accomplish that. And it's funny because all we're saying is, hey, take better care of yourself to live a better life. That's really all we're asking, right? When we're getting sober, when we're going into recovery, that's it. That's what we're asking of ourselves. But for so many people, that's such a challenge. And then they wind up getting into a different drug or a different substance. All I can tell you is it's your responsibility not to allow that to happen. Put down the weed, put down the alcohol, put down the nicotine, pick up the weights, pick up the book, pick up the YouTube video, pick up the career, pick up the new relationship, pick up the new hobby. That's on us to do that. No one can do that for us. I can't do that for people. I can motivate them to do it, but at the end of the day, this motivation goes away and then it's on them. And that's the reality of quitting. Right? So okay, Brittany Marsh. In the past, I quit weed, alcohol, nicotine, and energy drinks all at the same time. I put myself into a shock and had a very hard time. Yeah, and Brittany, that's now 53 days free. Yeah, Brittany, sometimes that's where we say like quitting everything at once can be too much. And we see that with people. If people are coming off of too many substances at one time, we'll say, okay, wait a minute. We got to taper some of these things so we don't crash your system. Every time I smoked carts, my chest would hurt, so I stopped. Yeah, I mean, carts are no good. Yeah, carts are trash. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, I've used Muscle Tech protein products. Yeah, they're okay. Is vaping safer than smoking weed? Is vaping safer? Okay, I think we're back. Mike back online here. I'm not sure what happened. All right, we're back online. So yeah, is vaping safer? That question's impossible to answer. There's so many different vapes out there on the market. We don't have like testing a Hyde vape compared to a Puff Bar vape, and then you find out the Puff Bar or the Hyde was a counterfeit. Like it's impossible to answer that. Now, in theory, vaping is safer than smoking because you're not producing all the same carcinogens that you're getting when you're smoking like a weed product. So in theory, yes, it's safer. Or I'm sorry, a weed or a cigarette product. It's the act of burning that creates a lot of the chemicals and a lot of the carcinogens. So, that's a tough question to answer. Look at this. We got a lot of people in here doing good. I've never heard you speak on cigars. Yeah, so here's the deal with cigars. So obviously I don't advise smoking anything. It's just you don't really see cigar addiction all that often. Now it exists. It's out there. There's people who smoke cigars every day, and that's a lot of tobacco. That's a lot of nicotine. That's a lot of heavy smoke. But you don't see it too often. Typically, people aren't smoking cigars in the same manner that they're smoking joints these days or smoking cigarettes or hitting their vape. So it's still harmful, but because the consumption is so much less, it's less harmful because of the less consumption. It used to be this way with weed, but now people smoke weed the same way they smoke cigarettes, right? A lot of people who we work with in our programs in our offices, they're smoking weed from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to bed. It's all day. And then we have people who are waking up in the middle of the night unintentionally to continue smoking weed because their body's demanding it of them because they're waking up in a state of withdrawal. We see the same thing with nicotine addiction too. So I hope that helps to clear that up on cigars. It's the same reason I don't talk a ton about chewing tobacco. The harm just isn't the same as with some of these other substances. It's not safe. It's not a health food. It's not good for you. But the harm isn't as intense, and it's not jacking up people's lives the same way that vaping, smoking cigarettes, smoking copious amounts of weed, drinking alcohol is. So that's why. Every day when I wake up, I have to throw up until I shower with hot water. Yeah, I mean that's cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. This is most likely go get diagnosed by a doctor. But look, here's the deal. I can't fathom what what weed is giving you that makes that worth it. And this applies to a lot of people here tonight. Whatever position weed or alcohol or nicotine has put you in life, I can't fathom what makes the discomfort that you're going through worth it. I can't fathom it. It makes no sense to me when I look back. It makes no sense what I was doing. It's incomprehensible. And that's what addiction is. Addiction is irrational. It's incomprehensible. So why try and rationalize it? That's what I say to people. You can't. Now, with that being said, yeah, if you have CHS, cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, I highly recommend you get help either at a facility, or for those of you guys that want to learn more, check out the links in our videos. We're doing our live Sober October program coming up. It starts October 1st, and we're hoping to fill that up. If we don't, no big deal. We'll do another one again in the future. I recently lost my job. I now have to quit. Employment's going to be a bitch. Good luck, Lee. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck. Yep. Get more hobbies. History repeats itself. Yeah, history always repeats itself, Ben. And we're going to see the same thing with vaping. 100%, Ben. We're going to see the same history. Yeah. Dungeons and Dragons. Absolutely. It's a hobby. October is my birthday. Screw that. I'm getting wasted. Yeah, look, if you want to live your life getting wasted and getting stoned, by all means, live your life. And if that's really what you want, I would encourage you not to waste your time on my content or on my stuff, because it doesn't apply to you. It might hit you one day, but I don't want to waste anyone's time. And that includes someone who wants to get high and get drunk and do stuff. You know, it's your life. If that's how you want to treat it, then treat it that way. For me, that wasn't how I wanted to live my life. That's not how I wanted to treat myself, you know? So yeah, I quit weed already. Still need the nicotine though. Yep. I get it. Nicotine, I think, is a lot harder. Yeah, now, guys, some people's weed withdrawals, does anyone feel like their weed withdrawal isn't as bad? Some people get it really bad, some people don't. And this is actually another good point when it comes to quitting smoking. A lot of people aren't going to even try quitting because of the fear of withdrawal, even though they're already going through withdrawal every single day of their life, right? In between hits. But fear, one of my favorite quotes, false expectations appearing real. So then some people will quit and they'll be like, oh my God, this isn't even that bad. It's not even that hard to quit. Why didn't I do this sooner? And it's because of the fear that was keeping them trapped in the addiction. Fear, false expectations appearing real. I quit smoking Newports first. Yeah, that's good. 24 from 14 to 24. Yep. Yeah, can nicotine gum and nicotine patches give people a shorter life? Good question, Ben. So what's the harmful effects of nicotine? People love to say, oh, nicotine's not as, it's just as harmful as caffeine, or it's just not as harmful. Look, like at the end of the day, guys, I don't care what anyone says. Like, caffeine isn't great for you. Okay. It has positive effects, right? It's a drug. It has advantages. Nicotine has advantages. Every drug has some advantage to it, okay? That's a reality, okay? But like nicotine, it decreases blood flow to your bones, okay? It can damage your nervous system. It has been shown to be carcinogenic in and of itself. Simply do the Google search nicotine and cancer, PubMed, NBICH article or whatever, and you'll pull up all the consequences from using nicotine. Nicotine can wreak havoc on the body. I don't understand why prominent people go out and say, oh, it's harmless by itself. It's really not. And then long term, nicotine does release a lot of dopamine. And when you abuse anything long term like that, that's that quick hit of dopamine that dumps dopamine, it's eventually going to lead to a dopamine deficit, which leads to amotivation and stuff like that. So 25 years of weed, sober for 14 days. I smoke one CBD joint a day a week, nicotine free. Does it stay in my system for a week? Nicotine is typically out of your system within 14 days. Weed, it really varies. I've seen weed exit the body in as short as like 2 weeks. I've seen some people testing positive for, beyond 120 days. So yeah, I would say nicotine pouches are safer than vaping. That's not proven. Okay. So I want to say a big disclaimer. It's my personal opinion, because although you are damaging your gums and you are putting yourself at risk for a gum problem, and potentially other disastrous diseases, I do think we're going to see a method of harm reduction with nicotine pouches to vaping. Yep. Okay. Okay. I'm too lazy to count how long I've been sober. We got 301 days of no booze. This is good. This is good. Yeah. Quit weed on the 14th. Next is going to be adult media content and the cigarettes. Awesome. Yeah. Fruit's a huge help. Kevin, I always tell people when it comes to quitting an addiction, eating fruit, it's hydrating. It gives you a little bit of a glucose spike. It's very refreshing. Fruit is a great option. It's very easy to digest because it's straight fructose, right? So, yeah, CJ, weed robs you of dreaming. It does, quite literally. People lose their ability to dream. And on a more, I don't know, philosophical note, yeah, man, there was a point in my life where before drugs, I was a very motivated individual. And when I got tied up in addiction and I got tied up in drugs, I lost all of that motivation. I lost a lot of the things that I wanted to accomplish. And it sucked. When you live life without a dream or without a purpose or without something to keep you going, when drugs are the only thing that keeps you going, the thing that could eventually kill you, whether I mean figuratively or just mentally, it's sad. It's very, very, very hard. Addiction is very hard. People talk about sobriety and recovery and they say it's hard. I have withdrawals. I'm going through this. I'm going through that. I have so much stress. Why do we downplay how hard addiction is? That's hard. Being a slave to something that you won't want to be a slave to anymore, giving all your time, all your energy, that's hard. Okay? Yet we downplay that so much when we're in the cloud of active addiction. It's because we're too numb to even notice how hard it is. It's really, really sad. It's really sad. Yeah, life is short to not enjoy, bro. Yeah, I think that's the big difference between me and you. I came to a point where it wasn't enjoyable anymore. Listen, if I got joy out of doing drugs, I would pick up drugs instantly tomorrow. I'm all about my joy and doing well. I'm all about doing well, I guess I should say. And drugs weren't giving me the joy that they had once given me. And that's why I stopped. I agree, life is too short. And that's why I've chosen to build a much better life for myself without substances. Some people, that's not their point of view. Some people prefer to have the drugs in their life, and it brings them a source of joy, or so they say. And I would never argue with someone who says that. Okay, I get it about the weed. 4 years cig-free, 3 years from weed, former yeah. Okay, what's wrong with adult media content addiction? I didn't know it was a bad thing. Yeah, man, I'll tell you something about adult media content while we're here. So, just a brief thing about it. I've quit weed, I've quit nicotine, I've quit caffeine, energy drinks, all that stuff. I really don't do much that's bad for me. And I have slipped up on adult media content, and I'll tell you, it's incredible if I go on a binge of adult media content, how horrible I feel after 2 to 3 days of it. And I mean, you watch one video a day for 3 days in a row. It's incredible how crappy I feel after that. And it's amazing having the perspective I have because I do take pretty good care of myself. I can't say, oh, that's because of alcohol, or oh, that's because I smoke too much weed. That's why I feel bad. It's no, the only thing I screwed up on was I watched three days of adult media content, and I feel like crap on day 4. Adult media content, man, it's one of those things that really screws with your dopamine levels. And I could go on and on about other physical side effects and erectile dysfunction and how you look at relationships and how it warps your perception of sexuality and things like that. I could go on and on for days, but we're not going to do that here tonight. It's pretty boring if you just do healthy things all the time. I disagree. I think being stoned and drunk all the time was actually incredibly boring. I'll be honest, I've built an incredibly exciting life for myself. We just crossed 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. We're now comfortably over the 500,000 mark across all our platforms. I'm never bored. I'm truly never bored anymore. I've built up my sobriety to a point where there's no opportunity for boredom. Sometimes I wish I had some boredom. We have so much going on. When I was stoned at home, drinking, when my health was declining, when I couldn't physically keep up with the things I wanted to be able to keep up with in life, life became very boring and very isolating. So I disagree. Now, that's not to say that I'm doing necessarily like great things all the time. I fly around on an electric scooter that could kill me. I spend, some time at the shooting range. That's not necessarily the safest thing in the world, I guess. Like I do things that give me adrenaline pumps, but yeah, it's a little different, I guess. Okay. Zins are occasional sins of pleasure. Rex, I got to smile at that. I think one of the funniest communities is the Zyn community and the chewing tobacco community. I think they have the most humor. There's no question. I was once a large part of that community, so I get it. If you only do all the safe things in life, you're gonna end up giving into sugar, carbs, and many other fun things. You're going to. I'm not going to, right? So people love to say that to me on my channel. Hey, if you do this, you're going to do that. You're going to do that. No, you might do that, but not me. Not me. Now, look, I'm saying that with kind of a hard ass mentality right now because that's how I am when I'm in these more personal discussions with people. So don't project your decisions on someone else. That's what I would tell you. Now, on a lighter side of that, yes, I still live life. I still eat sugar sometimes. I still do this. I still do that sometimes, right? I'm not a robot by any means. I just told you guys I've slipped up on adult media content from time to time, okay? But a majority of my life is well regulated. And when I'm regulated, when I'm disciplined, I get the things that I want to have and get out of life. When I'm not regulated, when I'm not disciplined, I don't accomplish the things that I want to achieve in life. And losing out on those things, missing out on those things, that's not fun. That's painful for me. So that's my response to that. We already talked about nicotine pouches. I said in my personal opinion, they're probably safer, but just Google your Reddit threads on nicotine pouches, guys. Some crazy stuff with Zins when it comes to withdrawal and side effects. Some crazy things that freedom is peace. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, CJ. Freedom is peace. Okay. 18 months alcohol free, 6 months no weed, YouTube addiction. Yeah, social media is a very real addiction, right? Some could say I struggle with this, but I think it all depends on how you use it. Hey, if someone came on here and they say, I'm using weed to my benefit, okay, great. Keep using weed to your benefit then. I'm not going to tell you to quit. That's none of my business. Social media for me has been a huge benefit. It's been a huge benefit to my business. It's been a huge educational tool for me, and it's a huge source of motivation, right? I learn a lot. The fact that I can pop on YouTube and learn from some of the top motivational speakers, some of the top people in their fields, some extremely affluent people on business and get real-time advice, that's invaluable. So I don't see the danger in that. Now, if I was sitting around, jerking it on YouTube all day long, not accomplishing anything and just letting my brain rot away, well, then we'd have a problem. Yeah, Rex, sugar's probably, the food addiction's probably one of the hardest addictions. I've never really had a food addiction, I can't say. I was always too consumed. I wasn't really worried about eating when I was busy pounding nicotine and caffeine all day long. So I don't know, food addiction wasn't a thing. But yeah, sugar is probably one of the most addicting things. And, we got more people that are going to die of type 2 diabetes and complications of that than probably anything else combined, right? So discipline is freedom, absolutely. Quitting pipe tobacco, not supposed to inhale, but I was, almost killed myself. Yeah, waking up in the middle of the night to smoke. A lot of people aren't familiar with that. When you get heavy into weed addiction, nicotine addiction, alcohol addiction, your body will physically wake you up out of a sound sleep to go smoke. It's because you're going through that intensive a withdrawal and detox process while you're sleeping. Your body and your brain saying, hey, I need this drug and I need this drug now, get up. And talk about being a slave to something, right? Are there drinks recommended that make you feel the same way as drinking alcohol, such as replacing soda with carbonated drinks? Yeah, look, I don't consume, okay, so I don't look for the buzz that I got off of alcohol, right? Like, I don't look for that anymore. I don't care for that anymore. The only thing I can control is my mind and my response to things, right? I'm so thankful that I still have my mental capacities, and I don't want to mess with anything that's going to take that from me. I don't, because as far as I'm concerned, then I'm no different from someone who's succumbed to Alzheimer's or dementia. Unfortunately, these tragic diseases that people develop. But if I've lost my mind to addiction, or if I'm seeking to purposely alter my state of mind, something is wrong, and I need to change something. So I don't look for replacements. Now, let me go to the glute specialist. Drinking a carbonated water, no problem. I drink sparkling water, carbonated water, flavored water. I drink that all the time. Okay, no issue there. I just don't look for the for that. Release the Peace. I've monopolized addiction recovery on YouTube. Yes, I have. I can say that successfully. I think we've put out more videos than anyone between TikTok and YouTube. We've been featured on Channel Asia News. We aired all across Asia. One of the biggest news stations out there. I mean, we have contracts. We have government. You know, it's funny. People like, I got a few haters that will bash me, and they're like, "Oh, dude, you charge so much, you do so much." And I do. It's expensive because my time has become extremely valuable. My time has become worth a lot. It's amazing what this YouTube, the opportunities that it's built for us. I mean, we have contracts with like government anti-smoking programs, and we have contracts with schools, and it's really unbelievable how this has played out. And I'm glad that we did it. I monopolized addiction on YouTube and recovery because I did something that worked for me, and I want to share that with everyone. Okay. I said this in a recent video. That's how I view gratitude. I know something that other people would benefit from knowing, and it would be wrong of me not to get that message out there. It would be wrong of me not to reach other people with this. And that's why that's why I hammer away at YouTube the way I do. And of course I love it. It's fun. I have a blast doing this stuff. Being sober is underrated, and I finally know what happiness feels like. Yeah, I mean, people don't know. You know, you don't know what you don't know, right? If you've been addicted to drugs for years, you're addicted to being high all the time, smoking all the time. You don't even know what's on the other side. I tell that to people all the time in our coaching and our programs, which, by the way, guys, if you're liking this Sober October program, it's this on steroids. Any of my videos, click the Stan link, sign up for Sober October. It's going to be an incredible program for people. But anyways, yeah, man, we don't know what we don't know, right? I didn't know that life could be so incredible because the life I was living was all I knew. That was all I knew, right? And if that's all I know, that's what it is, right? So, yeah. Why are you not quitting social media? Social media benefits me. I'll give you guys a tip. Here's how I organize my week, okay? And here's how I utilize social media to my advantage. Early in the week, so Monday, Tuesday, it's all motivational stuff. I'm listening to coaches that I like. I'm listening to people that I like, all that stuff. That's Monday, Tuesday. Now, we go into Wednesday, Thursday. It's all educational, okay? I'm educating myself. How do I make YouTube videos? How do we do this? How do I write copy for emails? Blah, 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 blah. It's all education. Then Friday through Sunday, it's all implementation. I'm filming, I'm taking all the education and motivation, and I'm taking action. Why would I quit something that's benefiting me? The same way I would say if weed's benefiting someone, why would you quit? Now, a lot of people, though, they're under the illusion that the drug is benefiting them. And that's what makes it so hard for them to quit. Because why would you quit something if it's benefiting you? You wouldn't. That would make no sense. And that's what we do in our coaching programs. We help people see through that illusion or that delusion of addiction. Because once you see that the benefit that was once perceived isn't there, quitting becomes significantly easier. Nicotine is easier to quit than sugar. I would agree with you. I agree with you on that. Even though vaping might be safer than smoking, it could have different effects on illness. Absolutely, Ben. Yeah, we're in for a wild ride when it comes to vaping. They're doing more lung transplants on younger vapors than they are in comparison to smokers if we go back in history. So, like, let me explain what I'm saying. You're seeing lung transplants and serious lung injury in 20-year-olds from vaping. You weren't seeing that until people were smoking for like 40 years. So we're seeing a significantly faster rate of injury with vapes than we are cigarettes right now, okay? And that's terrifying. Now, Why is that? Because there's so many brands of so many unregulated products out there. And I'm not one for government regulation. Trust me. I say make it all available, make it all free. And that's not to benefit me as an addiction recovery person. That's because I believe in like total and complete freedom. If someone wants to get fucked up, they should have every right to go and do that. I would support that. So yeah, Scott, you're absolutely right. I use social media helps people. Why would I stop doing that? Um, Social media is sugar is the worst. Okay, let's see here. Guys, I want to give a shout out to someone that has been on this journey with me for a very long time. His name is Cole, and we're celebrating today. And by celebrating, I mean he texted me today, and I said, "Yep, we did good work. Let's do a live tonight. Let's get back to work." Right? We're celebrating 100,000 subscribers today, so I want to give a big shout out to everyone here who made that possible. We've been doing big giveaways, and people already chewed up all the prizes and stuff, but we got a lot more good stuff to come for everyone in the community. So I really appreciate everyone that made the 100,000 possible. It's incredible. All right, Brother Beams. And Cole. Cole was a major part of that, guys. Cole was a major part of that. I met him early on in this social media journey, and he's been instrumental in it. Brother Beams. It's hard to walk away from something when you have so much of your life identity invested into it. Yeah, Brother Beams. I made a post about this the other night. It's not how do I quit drugs? It's who do I have to become to quit drugs, right? I had to inherently change so many things about myself. I'm a completely different person than I was, whatever, 8 years ago, however long it's been, I don't know. There was so much that I had to change, and change is a hard thing for a lot of people, but I want you to think logically about the change that we're asking you to make, that you're asking of yourself to make. It's a change that's going to give you a better quality of life. I'm not asking you to leave a job that's paying you $500,000 a year to take a job for $90,000 a year. I'm asking you to leave something that's robbing you of everything so you can get the next best thing. And it's funny because why is that change so hard to do? Why is it so hard for people to put down the sugar, to get in the gym? It just is. But it's through that challenge that we advance. So I just turned 25. 25 is a crucial time to quit. 25 is so crucial. It really is. It really, really is. The problem with weed is if you smoke every day, yeah, most likely, but that doesn't necessarily define it. I smoked every day, but I only smoked at night. And I had just as much of a problem as people who smoked all day long. So I wouldn't even say it's the frequency of use that determines the problem. I could have someone who drinks alcohol once a month and it really fucks them up once a month. That's a problem, right? So I'm not supposed to swear on this. I don't know. We can't base stuff on that. I think for a lot of people, that's a justification. Oh, I don't smoke every day. Oh, I don't do this. I don't do that. And Rodrigo Zan, and it's not to argue with you, but you wouldn't be trying so hard to prove your point to me if it wasn't a problem. You know what I'm saying? Like when people feel so compelled to defend themselves or to defend their decisions, that's when I think we have to question if the decision's a problem. You guys don't see me on here arguing very much with people who throw shade my way because I don't feel the need to defend the decisions that I make, because they're not a problem for me. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I hope it does. Okay. All right. I smoked 24. Yeah. Oh yeah. I vaped all different flavors. There was a lot of flavors to try. I smoked 24 years every day and I had no withdrawal. That's awesome. And Rodrigo Zan, yeah, of course. My withdrawal this time is off in low grade flower, was not nearly as bad as last time. Oh yeah, the edibles. Guys, edibles is really a crazy field right now with edibles. People coming off of frequent edible use. This is where the literature states that we're seeing some of the most psychiatric problems: psychosis, disassociation, schizophrenia. Edibles are responsible for a majority of the hospitalizations due to, again, psychological impact. And I'll tell you, when I work with people who are doing high concentration dabs, dab carts, and edibles, they're typically always in the worst shape. So yeah, it's the higher the concentration, the more trouble we have, right? And this is where I say this, guys. In addiction, you build a tolerance for the highs, but you don't build the tolerance for the lows. That's what addiction does to a person, and that's a problem, right? I could tolerate my next high in life, but I got to a point so bad where I didn't know if I could tolerate my next low. Like I didn't know how many more rounds I had in me left when my addiction got as bad as it got for me. Right? I can tolerate the good times, but there comes a point where you can't tolerate the bad times too more, and this is where we lose people, and it's a very sad thing because there was other options. You know what I mean? Um, my withdrawal went away after 44 hours. Congratulations, that's awesome. Every day smoke, that's awesome. Been clean for a month, great. 9 days without weed, it's getting better, awesome. Yeah, I sit down with my vape and I feel like I got to grab it every few seconds. That's how addiction works, right? Your brain now views nicotine more importantly than food or water. That's why sometimes you'll forego eating or hydrating to hit your vape, right? It's how addiction manipulates us. It's our responsibility to remind our brain that we make the decisions for it, not it for us. No, I don't use any caffeine, Brittany, and that's not necessarily because I wanted to like stop caffeine. I'm going to be honest. I caused a lot of damage to my body from abusing pre-workout products, energy drinks, nicotine, cannabis. I created some probably irreparable damage at this point, and I have to deal with those consequences every day now. Now, if I consume caffeine, everything goes numb. My hands go numb, my feet goes numb, my nervous system totally freaks out. Like I can't even really have dark chocolate. So that's a thing. Nicole, there were times when I quit weed and I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks. This time, weed free 30 days and almost slept the first night. Congratulations, Nicole. I am thrilled to hear that. That is phenomenal. Does nicotine give you memory loss? No, not really. And I'll be honest, nicotine, because of its positive effects on the preventing the breakdown of acetylcholine, in some instances actually helps with short-term memory and potentially long-term. They're studying nicotine for various neurodegenerative diseases that people might suffer from that show like cognitive decline. But big but on that, you can get supplements that help with that too, right? Like we're launching our own supplement product that also prevents the breakdown of acetylcholine in the brain with some of the ingredients. You can take things like alpha GPC, Huperenzyme A. All of those things are going to give you the positive nootropic effects of nicotine without the negatives. So yeah, okay. So I smoked weed for 28 years, took breaks, 4 days sober, and I feel great. Sleep is rough. Yeah, sleep is rough. Sleep is rough. I don't know what to say. Sleep is tough. It's just you got to go through the withdrawals. But guys, I'll say this too: the people who, and this isn't always the case, but this is just something I see. The people who go through the hard withdrawals and who get through it, who go through that challenge, long term, they tend to have better outcomes than the people who quitting was like super easy for them. And I'm that's not always true, okay? Like the people with the most success in addiction recovery are the people who find spontaneous recovery. They wake up one day and they say, I'm done and I'm not going back to this. There's no programs, there's no coaching, there's no anything. Those are the people that do the best. And it wasn't really hard for them. But the people who go through the struggle are often reminded when they think about going back just how hard it was. And that's enough of a deterrent. Whereas other people who maybe quit very easily and they didn't have to give it any thought, if they're not on guard, eventually they're like, oh, quitting was so easy. I'll just go back to smoking again. And then I'll quit again when I want. And then they go back, forth. Yeah. Do you have any tips with cold sweats, especially throughout the day? Embrace them. Embrace the cold sweats. I picked up hot yoga on and off throughout my quitting. I was like, you know what? If I'm going to be sweaty and disgusting, I might as well go a place where it's accepted. And, little pro tip, like that was awesome. Like doing hot yoga, right? I was around beautiful people, men and women, people who cared about their health. I made some great new friends and no one cared that I was a sweaty mess. It was just an accepted thing there. So big fan of embracing the sweating. Okay. Let's see here. Something that's been helping me. Doing grease the groove style workouts with push-ups, pull-ups, or burpees before sitting down to smoke. Interesting. I don't know. Oh, yeah. Using nicotine to help with the anxiety. Any tips to help with using nicotine to help with anxiety? Yes. And this could go for any substance, okay? So a lot of people will say, I'm using nicotine to help with my anxiety. Understand something. The only anxiety you're relieving is the anxiety that was created by the craving of nicotine. So you crave nicotine, you crave weed, you crave alcohol because you have an addiction, and you satisfy that craving by consuming the drug, and you feel relief of anxiety. Now, here's the deal. You did not solve the anxiety that was existing in your life. You transferred the anxiety to something else. So you did conveniently distract yourself with a different form of anxiety from nicotine withdrawal versus anxiety from lifestyle, whatever's going on in your life. And I'm not sitting here and I'm not going to say that's a horrible thing. I get it. Some people can handle the anxiety of withdrawal and cravings better than they can handle the anxiety created from whatever's going on in their life or whatever's going on in their body or brain. Okay? I will give it that. But long term, there becomes a different anxiety that's created, the anxiety that comes with addiction. And this is the anxiety of I'm spending my money, I'm spending my time, I'm spending my health, right? I'm worried about my health, I'm worried about my money, I'm worried about these things. And then we start to worry about addiction and the consequences of addiction. And this is where now we're adding on multiple layers of anxiety to our life. And this is where the drug goes from a potential benefit to a very clear-cut negative, okay? So that's the reality. Secondly, nicotine, although it does have somewhat of a calming effect in individuals, largely it's a stimulant, it releases adrenaline, and it puts your body into a state of fight or flight. That's what a craving is. It's a fight or flight response. Your body thinks you're going to die if you don't have the substance. That's anxiety. So there you go. Why does my chest hurt from carts? Because carts are trash. There's lots of trash in carts. Who knows, man? Carts are responsible for 60% of most of the lung injuries that we're seeing today in people who vape either nicotine or THC. Okay. Yeah, nicotine. So nicotine out of your system in 4 days. Yeah, for most people, nicotine will be gone in about 3 to 5 days. But then at 2 weeks, a lot of people get like a second wave of withdrawals or anxiety when they're quitting. And it's because you're processing the byproduct of nicotine, which is codeine. So to fully get the chemical out of your system, you're talking about 2 weeks. Okay, it's a little longer than that 3 to 5 days that I talk about, and then a lot of people talk about in actuality. And really, it's about 90 days for the nicotine receptors in your brain to come back down to normal levels. Because someone who consumes nicotine has billions more nicotine receptors active in their brain than someone that doesn't. Yeah, Nicole, the fruits bomb. Can you heal after aging yourself down from the fight or flight response from caffeine? Yeah, absolutely. Like, as I said, I do have some kind of long lasting health effects from my decisions, but largely I'm significantly better. Like the effects that I have today in no way, shape, or form hinder me. So yes, you can heal from that. Right? A lot of people do things like yoga and meditation and sauna and stuff to calm down their nervous system. Yeah. How do you deal with the shame of relapse? So I think the first thing is this. You say about a month ago, I relapsed on THC. Prior to that, I had a year and 8 months. I'm on day 2 of withdrawals and I hate myself. Okay. Here's the reality. Like, you don't lose sober time. Okay, like that's just not how it works. Like sober is sober. So like once the THC is out of your system, you're right back to where you were that year and 8 months just a month ago. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is I mean guilt and shame are not good, but they're also not bad things, right? We feel guilt and shame because it's our body's way of telling us, hey, you regret that decision that you just made. So I don't necessarily fear feeling guilty or shameful of something because that means my body's working and that means that I expect better of myself. So, Rev D, I don't know that you necessarily need to be beating yourself up over the guilt and shame that you're feeling. If you didn't feel guilt and shame, I would actually be a little more concerned. Does that make sense? That's the first thing. Now, the second thing I'll say to relapse is don't break your neck looking back because you might miss what's right in front of you in the future. Addiction wants us to get tied up in the past when in the reality, it really doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what you're going to do next. And there's no purpose of beating yourself up. And the last thing I'll say too, look, I don't know your specific situation or relapse, but like, I'll be honest with you guys, which wouldn't happen. But if it did happen, if for some reason I made the choice to smoke weed again and I smoked for 2 days, okay, let's say I decided to do that. And let's say I smoked for 2 days and then I quit again for another, 8 years. I wouldn't beat myself up over that. Like I wouldn't care. Like I'll be honest, I would care because of the brand and what we've done now, but I actually wouldn't care that much. Like the chances are, if I smoked twice, I probably wouldn't wind up losing my house. I wouldn't wind up losing my marriage. My life wouldn't fall apart. Like I don't think I'd go from 0 to 1,000 overnight. Now I've chosen to not do that because I don't really want to find out. And I have absolutely zero desire to touch weed again. Zero desire, none, zilch. Like I can't even explain how uninterested I am in weed because my life has become so interesting without it. But with that being said, if you did that and largely nothing happened, what are you beating yourself up over actually, right? Now, I don't know, maybe you smoked, you got drug tested, you lost your job, and you jacked up your marriage because of it. Well, that's a different story, right? So, okay, let's see here. Caffeine Blues. No, I haven't read that book, Liam, but I will check that book out. Thank you for dropping that in the comments for everyone. Okay, let's see. Yeah, okay. So Jonathan, 21 days THC free was giving me more anxiety and depressive thoughts than I could recognize. Dr. M. Lemke and myself opened your eyes to that. Awesome. Yeah, that's yeah, a lot of people smoke and they're like, oh, I smoke because I'm depressed. I smoke because I'm anxious. And the reality is you got to ask yourself, well, am I anxious and depressed because I smoke? A lot of times that gets lost in translation. So yeah. Okay, this is good. 5 weeks off weed, got a new job, still feel depressed, but I've been distracting myself with the electric bike. Oh, we got another electric vehicle user in here. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I didn't like quit and then, it took me like years to buy an electric vehicle, but love the electric vehicle. Love it. Love it. Okay. What's the best way to quit adult media content? Like anything else, I mean, there's some other stipulations when it comes to quitting adult media content. Watch the content you're consuming on your phone. Curate your social media content to things that benefit you, that don't lead you down that path. But, don't bring your phone into the bathroom or into the room at night with you. Get an alarm clock. Like there's a lot of different ways to overcome adult media content addiction, but it's like anything else. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like telling yourself, hey, that's not me. We don't do that. We're not watching it. I know it sounds dumb, but at the end of the day, like quitting a drug is not doing the drug, period. Quitting adult media content is just not watching adult media content. Like it's really that simple. Like you want to break the addiction, don't do the drug, and eventually the addiction will go away unless you hold on to it the rest of your life. But adult media content is very hard. That's probably the hardest one for me. As I said earlier in the stream, that's the one I have slipped up on. And when I say slipped up, I don't mean like I went back to my old ways of viewing adult media content. I mean like 2-3 videos, 2 to 3 days in a row, once every few months. Doesn't impact anything in my life at this point, but it's not something that I'm thrilled to do, right? I always do have the regret that comes along afterwards, just because I feel like crap physically afterwards. So yeah. J. Daniel Burns relapsed yesterday on drinking alcohol and weed after 2 years, but only smoked and drank a little bit. I know how to do it in moderation and won't overdo it. Am I still doing good? Yeah, by all means, you're doing good. And look, if someone wants to try going back to moderation, I'm not going to stop the person unless, it's blatantly a life or death decision for that person. Then I'll just simply remind them of that. But, I'd ask you, like, what are you trying to go back to with alcohol and smoking? Like, and why are you going back there? You've been sober for 2 years. So, I don't know what you did with those 2 years, but when it comes to sobriety, my goal with people when we're coaching people and working with people, especially for longer periods of time, it's to get them to a point in life where they have no interest in that stuff. It's where we fill their life with so many other positive things that there's no longer a desire to go back to the substances. So I don't know what it is you're going back to in moderation. And just on the topic of moderation, and this just applies to me, but other people, this might apply to too. I'm not a moderate person. You can see that in how we put out content on YouTube. You can see that in a lot of my behaviors. I'm not moderate. I don't care to be moderate. People love to tell me on here, oh, you should moderate. You should be moderate. No, you should be moderate. You should moderate. I'm not you. You're not me. Don't tell me how to live my life. The same thing that people say to me on here, right? Moderation is lame when it comes to me, right? If I want to drink, I want to drink. If I want to smoke, I want to smoke. I'm just not a moderate person. So yeah, I don't get it. Like, I just don't get moderation. Smokers who change to vaping might think they will quit vaping, and some people might not have thought they would wound up doing both. Yeah, Ben, this was a lot of people who switched to vaping. Lots of people wound up doing both. Lots of people thought they were going to quit vaping after quitting smoking, and they just wound up vaping more than they ever smoked. Look, these companies, they're not upfront with people, guys. Like, that's the thing maybe that pisses me off the most about addiction. Right, I'm very transparent in my programs and everything I do. Right, when I run a program, boom, the cost of the program's right there. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. Everything's transparent. There's not even BS funnels and pages of things. Here's the cost. Here's the link to sign up. You know my content. You know my channel. These drug companies, they don't tell you what the cost is of the drug, right? They don't tell you, the dispensary doesn't tell you the cost of getting addicted to weed. The vape company didn't share with people the cost of getting addicted to vaping or the cost of getting cigarettes. What they do is they siphon a little bit each week from that person, right? A little bit of money, little bit of health, a little bit of time. And they do it that way intentionally, right? These are some of the best designed drugs because you don't really feel it, right? Like, if I spent $50 a week for the rest of my life, I wouldn't really feel that. But if someone said to me, but if someone said to me, Frank, give me $50 a week for the next 20 years up front, right? I would feel that cost. I'd be like, whoa, that's like thousands of dollars you're asking me for. These companies that sell you the drugs, they're not upfront about what it is they're actually taking from you. They do it in small increments until one day you wake up and you have nothing left. They're very, very, very deceitful. Addiction is a very deceitful thing. And this is something that we spend a lot of time talking about in our Sober October programs, and that I actually have a video coming up on this soon for the channel. So yeah. Okay. All right, let's see. Boredom made me go back to getting high again, and when I feel emotions I don't like, I tend to resort back to weed. Yeah, that's a hard part of overcoming addiction, learning to deal with our emotions and to regulate our emotions, right? Emotional regulation is something that most people lack, right? And I'm not a pro at it myself, right? But I mean, I'm definitely better than I once was. I don't need to go to drugs. Emotional regulation is hard, but that's the point of quitting. The point of quitting is so we can get better at those things. And as far as emotions that you don't like are concerned, I think you have to flip your mindset. So like, when I'm anxious about something, I've changed how I view that. That means I'm procrastinating. So when I'm anxious, I say, what area of my life needs to change? What am I procrastinating? What am I doing wrong? When I'm depressed, I say, what emotional situation or circumstance is making me depressed? Why am I depressed right now? So I look at emotions very differently than I did when I was consuming drugs. And being emotionless is the worst emotion of all. In addiction, we don't get to pick and choose our emotions. We don't get to pick and choose. It numbs them all. It numbs the good times and it numbs the bad times for people. But numb is an emotion. Feeling nothing is not a good thing. It's feeling things. That's what makes us human. That's like the purpose of our human existence. Now, I understand some people, things are too emotionally overwhelming, and I understand that's why we have suicide and things like that in today's world. But emotional regulation should be a priority, and drugs prevent that. But there's many ways that you can go on YouTube, type in how do I regulate my emotions? Like start to put in the work to correct the things about yourself that you don't like. That's what sobriety is. That's what recovery is. I hope that helps. How do you get through the first day of quitting weed and nicotine? You get through it. I mean, there's no magic answer. I'm sorry. Like staying busy, I think is awesome for the first day, but eventually you're going to come to a point where you have to sit there, you have to crash, you have to go through what your body's going through, and you just have to get through it. And guys, this is where the breakthroughs happen. Like in sobriety, I'd say you're probably going to have 3 to 5 pivotal moments. So the first pivotal moment is day 1. The next pivotal moment is probably days like 5 to 7. After that, you're talking like maybe somewhere like a year into it. And this is where you're going to run into a significant challenge, like where you're really going to want to relapse. Like, I mean, every voice in your head, every bone in your body is telling you, I want you to relapse. And you're saying, this is too hard. I can't do this. It's in those pivotal moments. That's where we achieve the stamp on sobriety and recovery. It's when we get through those, that's when you can finally take a breath and say, oh my God, I'm done. I did it. Like there was very clear points throughout my quitting journey where I had like this peak challenge, right? Somewhere typically in the first year of quitting. And it's like, I'm really going to go back to using drugs. I'm 100% going to do it, but you don't. And that's where the change happens. That's where the magic happens. Right when you think you're going to break and you don't break. And I'm not the only, motivational style person who says this. And I'm not the only person who says that because it's true. It's when you really push yourself is when you get the breakthroughs. It just is. So getting through the first day is just a matter of getting through the first day. Look, get support though. Get help. Watch videos. Read books. Stay busy. Talk to friends. Talk to family. Go to meetings. There's a million things you can do to get through the first day, okay? A million different things. It's your responsibility, though, just like you're doing here, Callie, just like you're doing here, to ask, what are the things that I can do? What can I do? And hopefully I gave you some ideas for today. Yeah, my mentorship to be this rough. Yeah, I am a little rough around the edges when it's more casual like this. I'm maybe not as politically correct as I am other places. And this is what you guys get in our programs. For those of you guys who are really enjoying this, I highly encourage you listen. Our Sober October program, it's $4.99. We have payment plans, but you can find it in the Stan link of any of our videos. Check it out. It's a worthwhile program. I wouldn't run the program if I didn't think it was worthwhile. Trust me. Yeah, I got to shave. Oh my God. So I have to shave this stash and everything. I look terrible. Guys, even doing this live tonight, I'll tell you, I was like this close to not doing it because like, you see that light switch? So my house right now, if I could show you with my computer, I just moved in like very recently and they're painting in the house. My house is in complete shambles. Like, hold on, let me show you this. Let me show you guys the room that I'm in right now. Okay. Like look at my setup. So everything, all my clothes, my desks, my lights, everything is crammed like in every room of this house. Like I don't know up from down right now. I don't even know how I made it here. So I haven't had time to like even shave. After this live, I got to take a shower and like clean myself up before I get into tomorrow. Hey, glute specialist, thanks for the $1.99. That was super nice of you, man. Thank you. All this money, guys, I mean, yeah, of course, some of it, we have to profit. But a lot of the money here, it goes back into the channel, video editing, and just getting our message out there. And actually, some of the money just went away to our scholarship program where we're paying for someone. We got to kind of narrow down to a few people to probably become an addiction recovery coach. We're going to sponsor someone to go get that coursework done and get their certification. We'll be doing more things like that in the future. We always want to give back. Yeah, Wes Watson, sup Richie. Wes Watson's content isn't for everyone. He's one of my favorite motivational speakers. Huge fan. Again, not for everyone, but I love it. Yeah, there's a 0% alcohol Guinness. Yeah, sure. I guess I would have no problem with that. But again, like I stopped drinking a long time ago. I don't see the joy in drinking a 0% alcohol. Like I'll just drink a lime seltzer water and I'm just as happy. Why waste the money on it is my thing. Zevia is a yeah, Zevia, yeah. Guys, there's plenty of carbonated drinks out there. Thanks for the 100K. Congratulations, guys. I love it. Yeah, Sober October and beyond. Yeah, guys, when I pitch Sober October, realistically, like, listen, people have sugar-free October, Sober October. You can join the program. We're talking about addiction. We're going to talk about weed. We're going to talk about nicotine. We're going to talk about porn, alcohol. We're going to talk about all that stuff. But if you just take the content that I do in Sober October and insert whatever it is you're addicted to, it's going to apply. And if you have specific questions, we'll address those in there. Like, that's the point of a program. You get a more personalized approach. That's what we do. We got people at 1 month no weed. We got all types of good stuff in here. Oh God, I'm only at 909 of comments. Wow, I can't believe how far behind I am. Guys, okay, we're going to keep going here. I'm going to kind of come down to the end and see what else we got, because I do have to get off, but I'm going to see if there's any other questions here. Did you switch light switch covers? Yeah, that's funny. Russell, let me see. I'm 90 days sober from alcohol. I know your channel is based more about cannabis than you don't mean it, but I use your content for maintaining sobriety. Yeah, Russell, that's absolutely right. My content, when you pay attention to it, it applies to most any addiction. The only thing that is different in some cases, alcohol and benzos, we need to quit under medical supervision. That's really the only difference. But all the mindset stuff, it applies to anything. Okay, let's see here. Thanks for all the upvotes, guys. You guys have really made this stream awesome. I can't believe we had this many people here. This is so many people at 100K. This is like crazy, all these comments. It's hard to keep up with. I struggled to quit completely psychologically dependent on because of untreated ADHD and anxiety. I read books, tried Coke turkey. I build myself up and fail the next day. Let's talk about this. Damien, let's talk. Physiologically dependent on it because of ADHD untreated. Okay, so here's the deal. If you have ADHD and you want to get treated for that, go get treated. I promise you, if you look, I could get a script for Adderall tomorrow. Like, let's not pretend that they don't give out Adderall. Like, Adderall at this point in time, between online therapies and doctors, Adderall is handed out like candy. And if that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for a drug for ADHD, by all means, go seek that. Okay? So don't use untreated ADHD as an excuse, because you could get it treated if you want to. Now, personally, I'm obviously insanely like ADHD. Okay? I don't sit still. At any given moment, I have 5,000 things going on. I'm not a very organized person. Never was, never has been. And you could say it's been largely untreated. And anxiety, right? I get it. Here's the deal. We all have excuses, man. Some people are going to have ADHD. Some people are going to have anxiety. Some people are going to have trauma. Some people are just going to love having a good effing time and doing drugs, right? We all have excuses as to why we can't quit or as to why we become demotivated. And I just keep going back to, it is what it is. So what? So you have a great excuse, but do you really want to live the rest of your life this way, addicted? And if the answer is yes, by all means, do it. If you're like, no, my quality of life is better with the drugs, by all means, do that. Okay? But there is so much content out there on overcoming ADHD, even from a holistic standpoint, when it comes to nutrition and this and that. And if you want drugs for it, there's so many doctors that will give you drugs for it. Not saying that's what I would do, but whatever, each to their own path. I mean, don't let those excuses hinder you from making the decision that you want to make, if that decision is quitting. Okay? And I understand I'm calling it an excuse. It's a valid excuse. But what? Does that mean that you're just not gonna try then? You're not gonna keep trying? I mean, I have a valid excuse to not do. I had a valid excuse not to come on this live tonight. My house is flipped upside down. My wife is at my in-laws' house. She had to get the baby out. There's 8 million things going on today. Tomorrow I have an insane day. I had a million reasons why I could have just said I don't want to be here. But but we're here. We do it anyways. You know what I mean? So I think just rethink that. You're doing good. You're trying. You have a ton of other options, Damien. Right now, you might feel like you don't have options, but that's totally false. That's that addicted voice in your brain tricking you into thinking you don't have options, because when you think you don't have options, you feel hopeless. And when you feel hopeless, that's when addiction can really sink its claws into you. Okay? So don't fall for that. All right? Don't fall for that. And as far as building yourself up goes, yes, motivation is great, but as any motivational speaker will tell you, motivation will fail. Like it burns out. And it does become about discipline and commitment and consistency and all of that jargon. That's what it's about. And people are like, well, how do I get better at those things? You get better at them by practicing them. How did I get better at YouTube? By publishing over 600 videos, right? Like it's practice. You practice sobriety the same way you practiced getting, consuming drugs. Okay. So I hope that helps. Okay. Thank you, David. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Why is water when they drink tea? Why is water when they drink tea not the same as guys drinking a glass of water? I don't know, Ben. I love water. I love water probably more than I like tea. Brittany, no, we didn't do the Zoom meetings yet. I recognize your name, Brittany. Those are still going. No worries. We still have the Zoom meetings. We'll have announcements on that when I do the thank you for 100K post. I'll kind of announce the next steps. We're not naming people's names in the post or anything, but I'll give the next steps. We did do the giveaway for all the free supplements, and we did the giveaway for the free Kick It community memberships. Those are all used up. But the scholarship interviews we still have to do, which is going to take about a month or so to get through. Hopefully we have that wrapped up by the end of October. But anyone who applied, who I responded to, which was anyone who applied for the scholarship opportunity, I'll be interviewing you. So yeah. Okay. Let me see here, guys. All right. There's a lot here that I didn't get to. We got through a lot though. I don't know. Why is the addictive voice so much louder than logic? Because when you're addicted to a drug, it's very hard to have clarity, right? So the loudest thought is going to win, because when you're under the influence of addiction, you don't have clarity. So the thing that's loudest is going to be the most obvious to you. When you are sober, you start to gain a sense of clarity after you get through the initial withdrawals and detox. And then you can start to use logic again and say, wait a minute, yeah, that voice is loud, but that doesn't mean it's right. That doesn't mean that I have to listen to it. That's why it's so much louder than logic. Secondly, in active addiction for however many months or years, you've been listening to the loud voice, not the logical voice. That's the voice that you recognize, okay? It takes practice to hear that voice, ignore it, and start to listen to this voice, the voice that represents you. That takes practice. And the best book, we teach people how to do that in our programs. We teach that in our one-on-ones. But if you want to read a book on that, it's Rational Recovery by Jack Trimpey. That's the best book for that. Okay, so yeah, I don't remember what normal feels like. A lot of people's normal side gig university, they don't know. They don't know what normal feels like. And, it's incredible to me. I had no idea that life could really feel this good. And I don't want people to think like I feel good all the time. Like, I'll be honest, I'm tired. I haven't shaved. I can't say I feel 100% tonight. But, I feel a hell of a lot better than I did when I was, into the drugs and stuff, right? Okay, let's see here. How much work do you recommend doing when quitting? George, I think you mean like actual work. And like, I think you mean like work ethic, like career related work. I think that's what you mean. It depends on the person. Some people are driven to do a lot of work. Some people aren't. So that's a very individualized question. Some people thrive on their work. Some people are overwhelmed by their work. So that's something that we kind of work through with people, when we're talking to them individually. That's a very hard question to answer. 4 months sober is hard work. Congratulations. I'm recovering from fentanyl. It was killing me. Congratulations. That's awesome. Any addiction that you overcome, guys, whether it's weed, fentanyl, nicotine, energy drinks, I don't care. Addiction's hard, right? It's hard. If your addiction was energy drinks and it got really, really dark for you, it can be just as bad as something more serious. Addiction is addiction. It has different ways of screwing with us. Do you think abusing dopamine drugs and adult media content can impact your speech? Absolutely, it can. Yeah, without question. Dopamine plays a huge role in speech and speech patterns. That's proven, Scott. Yes. Yeah, fentanyl is no joke. I mean, obviously, we have a major problem with that. It's really sad. And guys, it's fascinating. I work with younger people and I focus on nicotine and cannabis. The amount of young people, though, that approach our offices and that are referred to our offices for adult media content addiction is insane. And I'm saying this because Sword EGG said that adult media content messed up their mental growing up. And I see that in like young men. Like young men, when they interact with women, like I'm talking high schoolers, and they're really deep into the adult media content, they're not, like, their maturity level is not there. Their behavior, their logic, it's really, really screwed up. It's a very interesting thing that I haven't been exposed to until recently, and I'm hearing and I'm seeing more of it, and it's something that we're going to have to shed light on soon. Take it easy when quitting, but to crush your goals in fitness. So which one is it? George, you're talking about work and fitness and blah, blah, blah. Okay, George, I understand now what you're asking me, George Clooney. It's going to depend on the person. It's the same type of deal. So if you quit and you feel good mentally and physically, get it to working out, get it the job, get it the career, go. Like, don't hold back. If you're quitting and you feel like crap and you feel like you're at your like max capacity for what you can handle, then go slow, right? Then, working out becomes walking. Going after your goals becomes, getting out of bed and brushing your teeth. It depends on where you're at in that quitting process and how you feel physically and psychologically. If you feel 90%, get it, go. If you feel 10% and then you try and overdo it, you're going to set yourself back. So I hope that makes sense. Okay. Okay. It was challenging to try to talk to people sober for years, coping with a puffing joy and start victories overcoming starting to feel real good. Congratulations, guys. Congratulations. This is awesome. We have a lot of really interesting questions in here. Do you think you have to go hardcore no FAP or just quit adult media content? Again, it depends. Like, I'm not like the no FAP person. I'm not someone who's like no FAP. I'm more no adult media content. I don't have a problem though with like, fapping, I guess. I don't know what the word would be. That wasn't my issue. But if someone's like cranking it like, a bunch of times a day, even though they don't watch adult media content, well, then that's a problem. So again, it's very individualized. And this is where we get into some of the specifics of addiction. It depends on your relationship with fapping. If you're, skipping dinner to go upstairs and, fap all night, well, that's a problem. If you're not, maybe it's not a problem. So that's a tough question. That's a tough question. Okay, let's see here. I've had experience in the past, but now it's more of a coping mechanism for me, not talking to women. So yeah, that would be a problem. Like if that's resulted from fapping, then you have a problem, right? That's exactly what we're talking about. Okay, 84 days, no nicotine. I'm going to get to 100, see how I feel. Awesome, guys. Awesome. Cold water therapy. My mind was so sharp. Talking to girls again. Yeah, adult media content, it rots the brain. Yeah, of course you would prefer adult media content to hanging out with your girlfriend. You weren't a terrible person. Your brain just was taking the thing that's more preferential, right? It's easier. It's easier to watch adult media content and get your rocks off than it is to pursue that through a significant other. It's easier. And the variety of content is greater. You can increase the explicitness of content very, very rapidly. It's more preferential to watch adult media content from your brain's point of view. For how smart we are, our brains are also pretty stupid, and it's our responsibility to guide our brain and how it thinks. Yeah, sleeplessness is one of the main withdrawal symptoms of quitting weed. Where am I? They're probably wondering from the missing light switch that I addressed earlier. I'm in a trap house. No, I'm kidding. They're painting in my house, so everything's like torn into a million pieces. What is lapsing versus relapsing? A lapse is like a hiccup. A relapse is like you go back to using as much or worse than you were before in the past. So yeah, I agree, Scott. I think adult media content addiction is one of the most challenging, and it's the one that I've had a lapse on, not a relapse, a lapse. But like I said, you got to put it in perspective. If I watch adult media content 3 times a year, is anything in my life really screwed up from that? No. Am I happy about it? No. Were there any real consequences to it? No. It's just, for me at this point, it's like that was a waste of time. Like I should have like done something else. You know, it's just like that was a waste of time. Now I don't feel good. Now I'm gonna be groggy tomorrow. It's just stupid. It's just stupid, is what it is at this point in my life, right? So it just depends. Um, okay, guys. Wow, I have to go. That was a lot. Thank you guys for 100K. Okay, I appreciate it. You guys have made this community possible. And together we have changed literally thousands of people's lives, and we're eventually going to change millions of people's lives. But none of this would be possible without you guys supporting the channel and supporting the community. And I just want you guys to know I recognize that every step of the way. That's why I put out the content I put out. That's why we do this stuff, and it really wouldn't have been possible without all the support we've had on the channel from you guys. We'll do another 100K live celebration soon, okay? And guys, if you liked this, please get in the Sober October program. I'm not just saying that, yes, it costs money, yes, we make money, yes, it's awesome, but I'm telling you that because it would help you, okay? It's going to be a great program, and if you can't afford it, go watch our free quitting weed program videos that we put out. We got our programs on here for free, okay? But Sober October is going to be something special. You can find it in any of the Stan links. All right, guys. I'll see you guys around on our next live. Thank you again for coming. This was a lot of fun. Bye.